Alright, so starting off with the first movement, it's easy enough. I really feel like you guys have the intro, which is all the way up to A, and then A down through B. I feel like we've got that pretty well. One big problem though is that I'm noticing you guys are not playing on your own accord. You guys are always listening for the person in front of you, and that will work with quarter notes, right? That'll work with some of these easier parts at the beginning of A, but for these triplet runs and stuff like that, the 16th notes, it's a big problem. Now I've noticed that Eliza and Noah, you guys are pretty well off playing your own stuff. That might just be your part. But Jake and especially Alex, you guys need to be more on top of it every time. And you also need to stop viewing your music as though it's all bassline music. Don't just wait for the person in front of you to play it and then follow them. You have to be able to decipher your part from the music and play that. So one thing I will say is if you look at measure 18, also you guys might want to mark every individual measure in your music. It's usually a good idea. Measure 18 is our first like intense run, okay? And so as you can see, it's just eights. The twos, it's something we'll get good at. Twos, spacing twos was hard for me for a while, even up until last year. There were some twos that were just out there. So we'll definitely practice that part a lot, measure 18. So it's just a pretty basic run, just up, down, and then back up. And so from there, we're leading on to B here. So B, we swap mallets. We'll all have poofies, and we'll figure out a uniform way to do that. And it just kind of starts with me hitting some quarter notes, getting a beat started. If you haven't heard it yet, that part, it's just a driving bass part. And then you have measure 33 is the second half of that 8-bar phrase. And at measure 33, we start doing an eighth note pattern. It's pretty easy, but one thing I will know is that that tiny little dot above all your music means to make it like terse, right? Like you don't want it ringing out. So maybe the foam will do that, or we might need to talk to Hank about muffling. But just know that that's what that little dot means. And then from there we go to a very basic eighth note run. So one thing I will say is that especially the second movement is super triplet based. The first movement definitely has a good bit of triplets as well, especially the second half of the first page. So just kind of keep that in mind. For Eliza, obviously, you know, those buzz strokes, those are pretty easy to do, but make sure they don't get spread out into diddles. You need to get that good. You're not looking for that right there. You need, like, so just keep it choked down, and you'll keep the buzzes going. Triplet buzzes are a pretty uniform thing, or a pretty constant thing on first base. Just keep that going, just the triplet. And triplets will come super easy once you practice it enough with your feet. So coming down, we are now at measure 38. So you have more triplets, and then again with the 16th notes, we'll keep practicing that. That's a very basic run. And then 39 is where I think we're gonna hit our first roadblock here. So 39 is just, you know, it starts off with a quarter note, and then a unison. Now I think it's going to be especially hard for Noah because you have to be able to play that first note on the second beat and still be ready to go for the and with your triplets with the sextuple at 39. So basically for that part, don't think of it as 6 notes. Think of it as 3 attached to the downbeat and 3 attached to the and, right? So, you know, don't just try to cram 3 in there. All right, wait for an and, which you guys should be pretty good at this point. Wait for an and then play your 3s from there. And it's a good idea to go ahead and try to space things out before this piece moves at a nice 156. So you're just looking at like actually those are 16th notes, but you know, you get the point. So you'll play like 1 triplet, 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 triplet. And then also another thing is that Noah, again, you need to be able to handle that spacing a lot from the sextuple, the one on the third beat. So your 3 notes on the end of 3, coming into the 4th beat, you're gonna have the tendency to want to rush the click into the left hit, but don't do that. You just need to wait it out, follow your feet, and you'll be all right. So coming into that, we have some pretty basic unison parts with some little bits everywhere. I'm sure you guys can read it, but just so you know, 40 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. All right, so very simple. And so now we're on C. So I would say for C, a big thing to remember is that for these like 8th notes that start with the right rim click, like the, all right, well, don't do that. But you remember not to hit that downbeat. You're gonna want to. It's gonna feel natural, but there's no downbeat there. You can see there's a nice little rest after that that first set of 8 4s or 4 8s, and that's like a constant thing. We do that twice. Again, no downbeat. And then for 43, we're going to tend to rush that buzz roll that we got, the buzz unison. But again, don't do that. And remember to play it for a full 2 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then from there we'll all cut off before the 1. Again, no downbeat. Jake is going to be the only one with the downbeat there. And for Eliza, I'll measure 44. You got a Haggadah, I think they're called. So while everybody else is playing triplets, you're gonna play. All right. So I mean, it's pretty basic. You just fit an extra note in there. And you might want to start that on your left hand so that you can hit that right rim shot. Okay, and so we rest on 45. These quarter note triplets, they can be a little difficult sometimes for spacing, especially for new drummers, but we'll get it. So, you know, just... So from there, easy enough. So starting on D, we return to the me playing quarter notes. I lay down a beat. You guys should definitely use that beat to base your notes on. You guys, damn it. You guys have some, all right. You guys have some pretty basic 8th note patterns there. And so that shouldn't be too hard. It's just 2s the whole time. And plus you'll have me playing the downbeat. So it should probably work out in the end. Nothing too hard here. It's pretty repetitive. The only thing I could say is that you might get lost. So if I were you, I'd go ahead and count out how many measures of these this little pattern that you're playing, and keep that in mind. All right. So coming on to E here, it starts out the exact same way for 7 measures. One thing I've definitely noticed about this piece is that rather than completing an 8-measure phrase, a lot of times he'll do 7 measures and then have an 8th measure be like an introductory phrase till the next phrase, if you guys understand what I'm saying. So we'll do 7 measures of the same stuff as D, and then there'll be that boom, 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 bum, bum. All right, and then from there we get into F. Now F is where things kind of pick up a little bit. There's a lot of powerful unison shots here, but it is important to remember, or it's important not to get mixed up in the unisons, and that you still need to play your part strong. So for F, it's pretty simple. Like there's that one powerful unison, and then do 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 do, and then that and of 4 is also a powerful unison. So try not to throw that one on the 1. 1 is a complement to the powerful unison, just like a total dead stop, equally powerful. And from there, it's all basic stuff, basic 6/8 note runs. The unisons are pretty easy. Again, where is it? Again, some of these places that don't have the 1, you're gonna want to hit that downbeat. You gotta sustain yourself, or not sustain, but refrain. So especially on 75, you're gonna want to just turn that thing into a bum 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 bum, but it's bum 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 bum. You never want to hit that note, and make sure you circle that or something, highlight it in a different color so that you know. So our next challenge comes up at the 6/4 bar. The 6/4 is going to be weird, and it's going to be strange at first. It stays the same exact rhythm, just has 2 extra ones tacked onto it. So 6/4, it's an easy measure, but you're just going to want to get tripped up by it just because it's a 6/4. So just make sure to watch that. Keep that in mind when you're doing things. And then as we move on to 77, I'm not sure if you guys have looked through the rest of the music, but on 77, that little beat that we have there, like that is a recurring beat. Like, I forget what the musical term for it is, but it's something that we play throughout the show. So it's going to be important to get it down packed immediately. It is a little weird looking at it for the first time, but it's pretty simple. It's just 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. All right, so that's it. It's pretty easy. You can replay that as much as you want if you want to get it. Honestly, it took me a little bit to catch, especially at the faster speeds and coming from the end of the 6/4 bar. But I think you guys got it. It's pretty simple. So everything else is pretty easy. It's just and spacing. Really, I don't think I need to show you guys any of this. One thing to keep in mind though is if you look at measure 84, there's that one and of 2 that's thrown in there. That is probably going to sound a little chunky at first. We get a lot of interpretations about where that and would be, but I think over time we'll unify that, solidify it down, get everything going. And then finally just some basic easy stuff, the half note triplets. And as you look at H is a recall back to B, so that should be easy enough. You know, it's the same thing we played before. And then there's those triplet diddles that you guys got. Contrary to the buzz strokes that we saw in measure 36, 38. Contrary to the buzz strokes we saw in 38, these need to be defined as diddles. So Noah and Eliza, you guys might want to work on your diddles a little bit because they need to be very strong. And so besides that, again with the diddles, and then this part we need to go like super hard. It's fortissimo, and there is a crescendo. So the unison rim click and the right left on the 4, the 3 and the 4, those need to escalate. We need to over define that, really bring it out. And then finally we have that rest on 1, and then 3 measures of buzz rolls down to nothing. All right, so that's pretty easy. If you guys need any more help, you just ask me for a measure. I'll play it out for you. I'll play your part. It's not too difficult. So, you know, good luck with it. All right, cool.